I'll try to keep this short and to the point. My girlfriend and I have been dating for 7 years in what I would describe as a situationship. She has short periods where she wants affection, romance, and intimacy connection. Then there will be months of no connection of any kind. So we are not extremely happy and both have reasons for staying besides some blind hope on my end that she will love me again. I stay because one of my biggest fears is being a part-time parent, and she stays because I do almost all the cleaning, cooking, and take care of bills. So our relationship is rocky and has been prior to these recent developments. To set the scene, I am an only child, and this is my only son. I'm extremely close with my parents and really don't want to lose them because I have no family other than parents and my dad's mom. Essentially, what's happened is my girlfriend feels disrespected by my parents regarding the house, and mainly as a mother. She is bothered by the fact my mom is close with our son. My mom watches our son 2 days per week while girlfriend works part-time, and she usually keeps him Friday night while we both work. My mom did accidentally call herself mom twice, and I corrected her both times. I've started to call her grandma instead of mom, so there is no confusion, and our son doesn't confuse the two at all. Basically, the reasons she listed were 1. My mom calling herself mom to our son those 2 times. 2. Feeling disrespected as a mother by my parents. 3. That my mom spends too much time with our son, and they're too close. Not an excuse. But I do find it interesting that girlfriend's mom is not in the picture. She has had substance abuse issues since girlfriend was little, so she's never been close to mom/grandma. 4. I don't stand up for her, I don't side with her, and don't have her back. She communicated all this, and I immediately went to my parents' house and set boundaries. I told them no names similar to mom like mama or anything that could be confused. I told them to respect her on the same level they would me. I told them to make sure they treat her well, and if they disrespect her again, I'd have to not allow them at my house anymore. I did exactly what GF wanted. I communicated to her that I was sorry, I had her back, on the same team, I hear her, and I'm fixing it ASAP. Set those boundaries, and really felt I put my best foot forward on all issues. What happened next is the confusing part. After I set the boundaries, she told me that wasn't enough. She told me she was going to stop working. We can't afford that. And my mom was no longer watching our son during the week. Then she decided that every other week, I could take son to parents' house, but they weren't allowed at our home. Then it changed to, they were fully cut off, or she will pack up and take our son to protect herself emotionally. My parents don't do a lot due to health issues and love being grandparents. My dad got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer last year at 64 years old. It spread to his liver, and he is still doing treatments regularly. He's made it 9 months, and they didn't expect him to even make it that long. So my mother gets cut off from being a grandma, which is her favorite thing in life. And now my dad sees her in pain, which upsets him. I've got my parents saying I need to fix this since my dad may not have long to live. And I've got my GF saying nothing will fix this, and it's them or her. I live to be a father. My son is why I wake up, work hard, and why I want to come home at night. I don't really have friends because I gave up alcohol 5 years ago and never really had a social life since then. I'm absolutely terrified of losing half of my time with him. I also don't think I can respect someone who gives me an ultimatum such as the one she's given. I don't like when children and grandchildren are used as a pawn to inflict pain. My parents have cut contact until I can give them information or a resolution. My girlfriend has resorted back to no connections, contact, or affection, and shut down towards me. And cleaning, which sucks because I work 50 hours per week, dad as hard as I can, and then have to do 100% of the cleaning. Basically, I'm currently alone. I'm without family, without a real relationship, and just work then come home to be a dad/clean. It's a really depressing life, and I don't know how much longer I can continue as is. I hope there is a world where I can have my parents in my life, plus a happy relationship with my GF. If I'm being realistic, I think, unfortunately, I have to bite the bullet and end the relationship. I've wanted out for a while now, until she ropes me back in during one of her good weeks. Then months go by of being miserable or distracting myself until another good week. I just wish I didn't have to lose half my custody. I shouldn't have to choose between losing half my custody or my parents. Just really depressed and upset with the situation. Also, just FYI for context. Since I never had grandpas and only one grandma, it's super important to me my son has relationships with grandparents. Thanks, guys. Appreciate any wisdom and advice. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I stay because one of my biggest fears is being a part-time parent. Honestly, based on how you describe this woman, if you force her to relinquish her control over you, she'll just bounce and you'll get full custody anyway. She does not sound like an involved parent at all. The fact that your child calls another woman mom says it all. Even if you do end up as a part-time parent, it's better than being a full-time hostage. Do you want your child to grow up learning it's normal in a relationship for one person to be treated with utter disrespect and contempt? Do you want them growing up without their grandparents? With a miserable dad and a controlling mom who disappears for months at a time? You owe it to yourself and your child to leave. She is isolating you, and everything you're describing sounds like very serious emotional abuse. Document everything she's doing to bring to court when it comes time to discuss custody. Like I said, it's entirely possible she doesn't even fight you on full custody because she sounds like an absent mother already. Comment 2. I think you need to start by speaking with a lawyer to figure out your rights. With all respect to your father's illness, you need to be clear. You can only control your own behavior, not your girlfriend. If they choose to go no contact when you are having issues, that is their own problem. I suggest you write a nice letter to your dad and write about the good things you used to do together and how you loved being with him. Why, if he dies while you are no contact, through no fault of yours, you will feel bad if the only comments you have were negative before he dies. Your girlfriend seems to have borderline personality disorder. Now, for the update, thank you for tuning in again. It's been a rough couple of weeks. My girlfriend's ultimatum has been hanging over my head like a dark cloud, and the tension at home is thick enough to cut with a knife. I've been trying to juggle being a good dad, keeping the peace with my girlfriend, and dealing with my parents' heartbreak. It's like walking a tightrope without a safety net. My dad's health took a turn for the worse, and it's been a gut punch for everyone. He's been in and out of the hospital, and all he talks about is seeing his grandson. It breaks my heart. My mom's been trying to stay strong, but I can see the strain is wearing her down. She's lost without her time with my son, and it's like watching her fade away right in front of me. Meanwhile, my girlfriend has been more distant than ever. She's barely speaking to me, and when she does, it's to remind me of the choice I have to make. She's been spending more time on her phone, and I can't shake the feeling that she's planning her exit strategy. I overheard her talking to someone about apartment prices the other day, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. The thought of coming home to an empty house is unbearable. I've been trying to keep things normal for my son, but kids are smart. He's been asking why we don't see Grandma and Grandpa anymore, and it's a question I don't know how to answer. I've been taking him to the park more, trying to fill the void, but it's not the same. He misses them, and it's not fair to him. Work has been my only escape, but even that's been tough. My boss noticed I've been off my game and pulled me aside. He's a family man and offered some well-meaning advice, but it just made me feel more trapped. He doesn't understand the complexity of my situation, and his simple solutions just aren't applicable here. I had to make a decision, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I sat down with my girlfriend and laid it all out. I told her I couldn't cut my parents out of our lives, especially with my dad's health failing. I explained how important it was for my son to have his grandparents in his life, just like it was for me. I could see the anger in her eyes, and I knew what was coming. She packed her bags that night. She said she'd be in touch about custody arrangements for our son. Watching her walk out the door felt like my world was crumbling, but then something unexpected happened. My parents showed up the next day, unannounced. They'd heard about the breakup and came to support me. My mom took over the cleaning, and my dad, despite his weakness, played with my son like it was the most important thing in the world. It's been a few days now, and the silence in the house is deafening when my son is with his mom. But when he's here, it's filled with laughter and stories from my parents. It's not the happy family I envisioned, but it's a start. I'm figuring out how to be a single dad, and I'm learning that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the right path. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm focusing on my son and my parents for now. I hope my girlfriend finds peace with her decision, and maybe one day we can all find a way to coexist for the sake of our son. Thanks for reading. Your support means a lot. My partner shared her intimate fantasies with a stranger and embraced him. So I exposed her actions online and watched as the world taught her a lesson about loyalty. My partner and I have been together for over a decade. Our intimacy life is generally good, though somewhat vanilla. Recently, we've been exploring more sexually and discussing our fantasies. I admitted that I am interested in group and voyeuristic activities, such as intimacy clubs, theaters, threesomes, and intimacy in front of others. I also confessed to having fleeting crushes on some friends, but I made it clear that I would never act on these without proper communication with my partner. Initially, my partner, who grew up more sexually conservative, was shocked by my fantasies and the idea of being with other partners. However, over time, she became more open-minded and admitted to having her own fantasies about coworkers and friends. She was also curious about being with others since she had only a few partners before we got together. There is a difference between us in terms of our fantasies. I want my partner to be involved in my fantasies, but she prefers to imagine herself alone with a partner while I am not present. I express my discomfort with this due to feelings of jealousy, but she insists that it is essentially the same thing since we are both with other people. Fast forward to last week when we were on a longer trip away from home. We went on a week-long tour through a forest with local guides. During this time, my partner revealed that she had a crush on one of the guides and had a fantasy involving him. It was all in good humor, and nothing was expected to happen. After the tour ended, we returned to a nearby town. Since we had different activities planned, we would be parting ways for a while. I left town in the morning, while my partner would be leaving later due to transportation timings. While my partner was ending the life of time in town, she unexpectedly ran into the guide she had a fantasy about. She confessed her fantasy to him, and surprisingly, he reciprocated by admitting that he also felt something for her. He suggested heading to a hotel to make things happen, but my partner declined because we hadn't discussed any of this beforehand. However, they ended up sharing a sensual hug, and he even grabbed her inappropriately. My partner told me about this encounter because she wanted to be transparent with me. I am unsure how I feel about all of this. I am experiencing some jealousy and insecurity. I asked my partner some questions. Why did she feel the need to admit her fantasy to him? Isn't the purpose of a fantasy to keep it in your mind and not make it a reality? What did she expect to happen? Did she want validation? Did she want him to make a move? If the situation were reversed, would she be okay with it? For example, if I told a girl that I had a fantasy about her, and she responded positively, leading to physical intimacy, and the suggestion of making it a reality in a hotel, would she be okay with all of that if I initiated a conversation that could possibly have such an outcome? I am not sure what exactly my question is. I am just seeking some thoughts and opinions from the internet. I want to understand this situation better. Edit. I want to clarify that I don't believe she cheated. She mentioned that she wanted to stop thinking about him because it felt like unfinished business. By telling him about her fantasy, she thought she would be clearing the air in some way. It wasn't her intention for him to get aroused or touch her inappropriately. My response was that she must have known how he would react, but that perspective comes from a male point of view. I understand how we can be. She also knew that he was married, so I questioned why she would even tempt someone. However, she is more naive, so I do believe her. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. She cheated and you took it how? As long as you act spineless and without self-respect, you won't have a good marriage. Be honest, she already stepped above the lines and should think about divorce. You both entered a hellgate and you will end in chaos. GG. Comment 2. This is so sad. Even sadder for you because for sure he'll have intimacy relations with your wife someday soon. I hope you find a way to meet in the middle on what's going to happen hereafter. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for the latest. So, the other day, something happened that really got under my skin. My partner, she went to this work event, right? It was one of those fancy dinners where everyone tries to look their best. She's been working with this guy, let's call him Mr. X, who's always been a bit too friendly for my taste. Anyway, she comes home and tells me Mr. X was all over her, offering her drinks, laughing way too hard at her jokes, the whole 9 yards. She brushed it off, but I could tell she was flattered. Now, I remember her mentioning Mr. X before, how he's this big shot at the office, and I can't help but feel a twinge of jealousy. I mean, we've been open about our fantasies, but this is real life, and it's hitting too close to home. She assures me it's nothing, but I can't shake the feeling. Back when we first got together, she had this thing for taking risks, you know. She loved the thrill. I was more of a play-it-safe guy, but I admired that about her. It's like she brought color into my black and white world. But now, I'm worried that old thrill-seeking side of her might be creeping back up. Fast forward to yesterday, and she tells me Mr. X has invited her to a private after-work get-together. Just a few select colleagues, he says. She's considering it, and I'm trying to keep cool, but inside, I'm freaking out. What if this is her acting on those fantasies she talked about? What if Mr. X makes a move? I lay it all out for her. I tell her how this makes me feel, how I'm not comfortable with the whole situation. She gets defensive, says I'm being paranoid, that she can handle herself. But then she pauses, looks at me, and I see that old, familiar guilt in her eyes. She admits she's been feeling a bit trapped lately, missing the excitement from the early days of our relationship. We have this heart-to-heart, and it's like we're peeling back layers we didn't even know were there. She confesses that part of her wanted to go to that get-together to prove something, maybe to herself, maybe to me, I don't know. But she decides to skip it, says our relationship means more than some cheap thrills. Today she comes home early from work, and I can tell something's off. She sits me down and tells me Mr. X tried to kiss her. She pushed him away, told him it was inappropriate, and left. She's shaken up, but she's also clear about one thing. She loves me and she's committed to us. I'm angry, sure, but not at her. I'm angry that someone would disrespect our relationship like that. But in a weird way, this whole mess has brought us closer. We're talking more, being more honest about our feelings, our desires. It's like we're rediscovering each other, and it feels good, real good. She's even suggested we try one of those fantasies together, but on our terms with rules and boundaries we're both comfortable with. It's a risk, but it's one we're taking together, and that makes all the difference. Thanks for reading. My fiance gets cozy with a younger coworker and lies about it. So I dump him and show him what losing me really costs. I am a 24-year-old female, and I have a fiance who is 27 years old. He recently became friends with a coworker who is 19 years old, and I am not comfortable with inviting her to our wedding. My fiance and I have been together for 8 years. My fiance works at a restaurant and has made multiple friends at work, but I am not comfortable with him being around this specific coworker. The 19-year-old coworker recently joined the guy's friend group. About 4 months ago, they all became pretty close, going out to drink after work and playing football together. Recently, I have noticed that she has been taking an interest in things my fiance likes, such as anime. A couple of weeks ago, she started playing video games with us, specifically League of Legends. She downloaded Discord and played on a Mac using a trackpad, which is nearly impossible. Prior to this, it was clear that she had no interest in gaming. I asked my friend, who is an ex, for advice regarding this situation, and they responded with game recognized game. She also recently broke her ankle, so my fiance had to drive her home every night after work and possibly pick her up for work as well. I even saw her name come up on the car's aux connection. He would also carry her up the stairs to her apartment every night. Despite having a broken ankle, she even continued to go to soccer. All of this is just annoying, and I could ignore it until recently. One night, my fiancé told me he would be working late. I asked him if he would be coming home at 1 a.m., and he said yes. However, he didn't come home until 2:30 a.m., and I was already asleep by then. The following morning, everything seemed fine. He had to drive me to work, so when I opened the door to his car, I noticed a hair clip. My mind immediately started racing, but I decided to keep it to myself and not say anything. As we were driving to work, I saw a text notification on his phone from the female coworker, asking him to pick her up at 4. I didn't see the rest of the message, and I was about to lose control. He stopped the car in front of my workplace, and I quickly unbuckled my seatbelt and got out. I picked up the hair clip, confronted him by saying, "What the frick is this?" and threw it into the parking lot before slamming his car door. I then went into work and had a breakdown before opening the store. Later that night, when he got home, he asked if I wanted to talk. I shook my head and we decided to go for a walk. We sat down on a bench and I had my hoodie up, looking down the whole time. He apologized for coming home late and I asked him what he had been doing. He replied saying he was with the female coworker, and I responded with, "Yeah, I thought so." We sat in silence for a few moments, and then he said she was having a panic attack, so I had to calm her down because of traumatic events. I snapped my head towards him and said, "That's not your problem. She should know better than to involve you in that situation." He became defensive and started telling me about how she has no friends and doesn't trust anyone. I tried to explain to him my concerns about her pursuing him, but he disagreed and said he doesn't think she's that kind of person. He mentioned that she has feelings for another guy in the friend group, and although they hooked up, they're not together due to circumstances. He insisted that she feeds off his attention only to create drama. But even the guy she supposedly has feelings for and the other guys in the group are unaware of this incident. I don't know, it's really frustrating because I can't see any good intentions from her. How do I tell him that he cannot invite his female coworker to our wedding? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Normal 27-year-old men don't befriend 19-year-old girls. You are 24 years old. How many 19-year-olds do you hang out with? My guess is that number is less than 1. He's cheating on you. Even if it hasn't gotten physical, which I'm sure it has, emotional affairs are a thing. If she was seriously trying to unalive herself, he should have called 911 so that they could bring her to the hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. Find somebody worth your time. Your boyfriend is a loser. Comment 2. I'll try to be kind. Your fiancé is having intimacy with his coworker and snuggling with her and driving her to and fro and playing games with her and emotionally supporting her, and then coming home to you at 3 a.m. and acting like everything is fine. You need to pack your things, put them in your car, leave a note and the ring, and go no contact. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for the latest. So, the whole situation with my fiancé and his coworker, it got worse, way worse. After the whole hair clip fiasco, I thought things would cool down, but nope. My fiancé started getting more secretive with his phone. I caught him texting late at night, and whenever I walked in, he'd quickly switch apps. It was like he forgot I knew his passcode. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I waited for him to fall asleep and checked his phone. There it was, a whole string of texts with her, some of them way too friendly for my liking. I felt sick to my stomach. I confronted him the next morning. He tried to brush it off, saying they were just friends, but I wasn't buying it. We had a huge fight, and he stormed out, saying he needed air. I was left alone, fuming and feeling betrayed. Later that day, I got a call from my ex, the one who had given me the recognized game advice. He said he saw my fiancé and the coworker at a cafe, looking way too cozy. I was shaking with anger. I decided to pay a little visit to the restaurant where my fiancé worked. I needed to see things for myself. I got there, and guess who was sitting at the bar, laughing and touching his arm? Yep, the coworker. I walked up to them, and the look on my fiance's face was priceless. He tried to explain, but I cut him off. I told him he had to choose right then and there. It was her or me. He hesitated. That was all I needed to see. I took off my engagement ring, placed it on the bar, and walked out. I didn't look back. I stayed with a friend for a few days, trying to piece my life back together. My phone was blowing up with his apologies, but I ignored them all. I needed space to think. Then, the unexpected happened. The co-worker showed up at my friend's place. She had the nerve to tell me it was all a misunderstanding, that she really did like the other guy in their friend group. She said she was sorry for everything. I didn't know what to believe. I told her to leave, and I sat down to think about everything. My fiancé had made his choice, even if he hadn't said it out loud. I needed to make mine. I decided to move on. I found a new place, started focusing on myself. It was hard, but I was getting by. Then, one day, I heard from a mutual friend that the coworker and the guy she supposedly liked were now openly dating. It seemed like my fiancé was out of the picture for her. As for my fiancé, he tried to win me back, but I couldn't trust him anymore. I heard he quit his job at the restaurant, but I didn't care. I was too busy rebuilding my life without him. Thanks for reading this mess of a life update. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.